everyone, and welcome to the third and final episode of Beyond the Screen. If you listened to the first two episodes, thank you so much for sticking with me through this entire project. We have covered a lot already, and we talked about what parasocial relationships are and how they developed long before social media existed, why we naturally form emotional connections with influencers and celebrities, and how those relationships affect trust and even the products that we decide to buy. Today is going to be a little bit different. Originally, I had planned to film this episode as a full get ready with me, like how Alex Earl did. And honestly, that format felt like the perfect way to tie everything together. Those videos are one of the biggest reasons influencers have become so successful. They make viewers feel like they're just sitting down with a friend while they're getting ready for the day. I have been sick for over a month now, and I'm currently taking two different antibiotics. And I somehow managed to get a sunburn on top of that, and I broke out in a fever today. I thought it would just be more authentic to not force myself to put on a full face of makeup because that just wasn't going to happen. And I was like, great, that kind of ruins my plans. But then I realized it would fit this project even better. Throughout this entire podcast, there has been one word that kept appearing over and over again, which was authenticity. And the survey that I conducted, it showed that authenticity was the single most important quality that people look for in influencers and celebrities. So more people selected authenticity than humor, attractiveness, talent, or even expertise. So instead of pretending that everything is perfect, I figured I'd just show up exactly as I am. And honestly, I think that's kind of the point. Okay, so what surprised me? When I first chose this topic, I honestly thought that I already knew what parasocial relationships were. I assumed they described how people were obsessed with celebrities, the people who get into arguments online defending their favorite singer, or the people who cry when influencers announce that they're getting married, or even the extreme situations of like breaking and entering into a celebrity's home, or I don't know, impersonating them or reaching out to their family members, which is just crazy. After reading all of the research, I realized I was completely wrong, and parasocial relationships exist on a spectrum. You don't just have to think you're someone's best friend to have one. In fact, most people probably have experienced one without even realizing it. If you've ever watched someone's videos every morning while getting ready, if you've ever been excited when your favorite creator announces that they're pregnant, or if you've ever looked forward to a podcast episode every week, you've probably experienced some form of a parasocial relationship, and that's completely normal. I think social media has almost made us afraid of the word parasocial. People kind of throw it around as an insult now. And if someone comments too much, they're called parasocial. If someone supports a celebrity, they're also called parasocial, but that's not how researchers describe it. Researchers simply describe it as a one sided relationship and not necessarily an unhealthy one. I might need to take my medicine. I don't feel like I can breathe right now. My survey actually changed my perspective a little bit. I found it interesting because it challenged some of my own assumptions. When I asked people directly whether they felt emotionally attached to influencers, most people did not strongly agree with that statement. Actually, they stayed somewhere in the middle. And at first, I thought maybe people just don't form parasocial relationships anymore, or maybe my friends are sane. But then I kept reading the survey, and then something else stood out, which was over 90% of participants said that they had purchased something because of an influencer or celebrity recommendation. And 90% coming from 38 participants, that's a pretty big chunk of the participants. People also overwhelmingly said that authenticity, of course, again, was one of the most important qualities when deciding whether to trust someone online. So that made me think maybe that people don't consciously recognize these relationships, but they still influence behavior. And influence doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's buying a moisturizer because someone you liked recommended it, or it's trying a new coffee shop, or watching a movie, or listening to a new artist. And those small decisions happen every single day, and they can even happen amongst friends and not someone completely famous. One unexpected part of this project was that it made me start paying attention to my own social media habits. And I asked myself the questions like, why do I follow certain people when I unfollow others? Why do some recommendations immediately catch my attention while others don't? I realized that I don't necessarily follow people because they have the biggest audience, and I follow them because they feel relatable to me, because they're funny, because they tell good stories, because I feel like I know what kind of person they are based off of myself. And that's exactly what my survey found too: authenticity, relatability, honesty, and those qualities mattered far more than follower count. So I also don't think that this trend is going to slow down anytime soon. If anything, I think creators are becoming even more personal. People vlog their entire days. They take us on vacation. They film grocery shopping. They show us breakups. They show us family problems. And sometimes it feels like we're watching someone's entire life unfold in real time. And I think audiences are also becoming smarter because people know when something feels fake. And ironically, the more polished social media becomes, the more audiences seem to crave creators who feel imperfect. And I think that also ties into AI becoming a lot more popular. I can see on ads like for video games, people are like, oh, like that's not what the real video game looks like. It's just AI. Anytime someone posts something AI, they get a lot of hate for it. So I think what the viewers really want is something real and, of course, authentic, like I said again. I also haven't mentioned my own experiences online because guess I was just so busy with the survey and then the research that I just didn't mention it in episodes 1 and 2. But I'm not a full time influencer, but I do create content on social media and I have worked with multiple brands before. And because of that, I've experienced a small glimpse of what it's like to have strangers form opinions about you. A while ago, I commented on a video sharing my opinion that I didn't think Sydney Sweeney was a strong actress. And sorry, that's just my opinion. And people disagreed, which is completely fine. That's a part of posting online. But one person took it completely to the next level. And instead of simply commenting on my video, they downloaded my other TikTok videos, my content, and posted it to their own account and made multiple videos insulting my appearance and calling me fat. Which when I reported the videos, nothing happened, and TikTok said that it did not violate any rules, even though I blatantly stated, hey, someone's impersonating me, that's me in those videos, please like take it down. Nothing happened, and out of curiosity I messaged the person and asked like, hey, take this down, this is so weird, you're going way too far with this. What surprised me wasn't just that they defended their actions, it was their reasoning. They basically told me because I criticized a celebrity, they felt justified criticizing me. They even wanted me to call them on the phone, and they called me a wimp when I said no for safety reasons. That whole interaction is just so creepy, first of all. But looking back now, after researching parasocial relationships, I can see that interaction a little bit differently. This person had never met Sydney Sweeney, but they reacted as if they were defending someone they personally knew. And it made me realize how emotionally invested people can become in public figures, even when those people have no idea who they are. And that's not to say that everyone who likes a celebrity or influencer behaves that way. Most people don't, but it reminded me that parasocial relationships can sometimes blur the line between supporting someone and feeling personally responsible for protecting them. Because I remember when I was arguing back and forth with that kid, I was literally like, at the end of the day, Sydney Sweeney still does not know who you are. So, the biggest lesson that I'll take away from this project is that parasocial relationships aren't something to fear, but they're something to understand. Human beings naturally seek connection, and we have always done that. The only thing that's changed is where those connections happen. And years ago, it was on television, then on YouTube. Tomorrow, who knows? The platform will probably change, but I don't think our desire for connection ever will. If there's one thing I hope people take away from this podcast, it's this: enjoy the creators that you love, support artists, watch your favorite YouTube videos, laugh at funny TikToks, listen to podcasts, discover new podcasts like this one. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Just remember that social media gives us carefully selected moments, not someone's entire life. As long as we keep that perspective, I think parasocial relationships can simply be another way we enjoy media. And honestly, I don't think that's such a bad thing. As I wrap up this podcast, I keep coming back to one simple idea, and it's that parasocial relationships aren't really about influencers or celebrities, they're about people. As humans, we're naturally drawn to stories. We look for people who make us laugh, inspire us, comfort us, or simply just make us feel less alone. And social media has made those connections easier than ever before, allowing us to follow someone's life with just a few taps on our phones. And while those relationships may only exist through a screen, the emotions they create can still feel very real. Throughout this project, I learned that parasocial relationships aren't automatically positive or negative. Like most things, they're nuanced. They can motivate us, introduce us to new communities, encourage us to pursue our goals, and even provide comfort during difficult times. But they can also influence the way we think, the products we buy, and sometimes even the way we treat people online. One of the biggest lessons I learned is that authenticity matters, and my survey showed that people value honesty and genuineness more than anything else when deciding who to follow or trust. That finding wasn't just reflected in my own research, it appeared through the academic studies as well. In a digital world that's becoming increasingly curated and polished, people are still searching for creators who feel real. And I also think that this project changed the way I personally use social media and how easy it is to feel connected to someone you've never actually met. And I don't think that's something we should fear, but I do think it's something that we should recognize. Being aware of these relationships allow us to enjoy social media while still thinking critically about the influence it has on our lives. It's okay to enjoy following creators, musicians, actors, or athletes, or anyone else whose content brings you happiness. Just remember that what we see online is only one part of a person's life. Behind every carefully edited video, sponsored post, or viral moment, it is still a real person with experiences that we don't fully see. So, thank you so much for listening to my podcast, Beyond the Screen. This project has challenged me to think differently about social media, and I hope it encouraged you to think a little differently too. The next time you open TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, maybe you'll find yourself asking, not just who you're following, but why you feel connected to them in the first place. So, thank you again for following me on this journey, and until next time.